Begin our journey into the world of economics. I thought I would begin as we begin our journey into the world of economics. I thought I would begin with a quote from one of the most famous economists of all times, the Scottish philosopher Adam Smith. And he really is kind of the first real economist in the way that we view it now. And this is from his The Wealth of Nations, published in 1776, coincidentally the same year as the American Declaration of Independence. And it's one of the most famous excerpts. He generally, indeed, he being an economic actor, neither intends to promote the public interest nor knows how much he is promoting it. By directing that industry, so the industry in control of that individual actor, in such a manner as its produce may be of the greatest value, he intends only his own gain. He intends only his own gain. And he is in this, as in many other cases, led by an invisible hand to promote an end which was no part of his intention. And this term invisible hand is famous, led by an invisible hand to promote an end which was no part of his intention. He's saying, look, when individual actors just act in their own self-interest, that often in aggregate leads to things that each of those individual actors did not intend. And then he says, nor is it always the worst for society that it was no part of it. So it's not always necessarily a bad thing. By pursuing his own interest, he frequently promotes that of the society more effectually than when he really intends to promote it. So this is a pretty strong statement. It's really at the core of capitalism. And that's why I point out that it was published the same year as the American Declaration of Independence, because obviously America, the founding fathers, they wrote the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. It really talks about what it means to be a democratic country. What are the rights of its citizens? But the United States, in its overall, the overall experience of an American is at least as influenced by the work of Adam Smith, by these kind of foundational ideas of capitalism. And they just both happened to happen around the same time. But this idea is not always that intuitive. Individual actors, by essentially pursuing their own self-interested ends, might be doing more for society than if any of them actually tried to promote the overall well-being of society. And I don't think Adam Smith would say that it's always good for someone to act self-interested, or that it's never good for people to actually think about the implications of what they're doing in the aggregate sense. But he's saying that frequently, this self-interested action could lead to the greater good, could lead to more innovation, could lead to better investment, could lead to more productivity, could lead to more wealth, a larger pie for everyone. And now economics is frequently, and when he makes a statement, he's actually making a mix of a microeconomic and a macroeconomic statement. Micro is that individual actors are acting in their own self-interest, and the macro is that it might be good for the economy or for the nation as a whole. And so now modern economists tend to divide themselves into these two schools, or into these two subjects. Microeconomics, which is the study of individual actors. Microeconomics, and those actors could be firms, it could be people, it could be households. And you have macroeconomics, which is the study of the economy in aggregate. Macroeconomics. And you get it from their words. Micro, the prefix, refers to very small things. Macro refers to the larger, the bigger picture. And so microeconomics, just to restate it, is essentially how actors make decisions, or I guess we could say allocations, decisions/allocations of scarce resources. And you're going to hear the word scarce resources a lot when people talk about economics. And a scarce resource is one that you don't have an infinite amount of. For example, love might not be a scarce resource. You might have an infinite amount of love. But a resource that would be scarce is something like food, or water, or money, or time, or labor. These are all scarce resources. And so microeconomics is, well, how do people decide where to put those scarce resources? How do they decide where to deploy them? And how does that affect prices and markets and whatever else? Macroeconomics is a study of what happens in aggregate to an economy. So aggregate, what happens in aggregate to an economy from the millions of individual actors. Aggregate economy. We now have millions of actors, and it often focuses on policy related questions. So, do you raise or lower taxes, or what's going to happen when you raise or lower taxes? Do you regulate